Hi everyone, Flavia here and welcome to another organization video. Today I will show you how I organize and swatch my embossing powders. I like this organization system because it allows me to easily see everything that I have. To organize my embossing powders, I got this expandable spice rack from Amazon. I have seen this at the Container Store and at Bed Bath & Beyond as well. I already have two similar organizers where I keep my foil rolls and Nuvo drops. I think that these tiered racks are great because they allow you to store your supplies in a way where you can see everything that you have. I am just now getting into embossing powders, so I do not have that many, but I decided to get an expandable rack so I have room to grow, which I believe will happen very soon because I really like the effect that you get when you use embossing powders. I also like this spice rack because each tier is wide enough to fit the Ranger embossing powder jars. I have been keeping all of my embossing powders in this plastic box, which has been bugging me for a while now because it is messy and I still do not have swatches of the colors. Each of these powders come in a see-through jar, so you can't see what it's inside. However, once you melt these powders, the color might change a little bit, and that is why I want to swatch these embossing powders. As you can see, I have jars in different sizes from different brands. The smaller ones would perfectly fit into a tiered nail polish organizer, but not the bigger ones, and that is why I chose this spice rack to store my embossing powders. I will create swatches by dabbing the lid right into this Versamark water pad a couple of times. This Versamark pad will make the powder stick to the lid. Then I will pour the powder on top of it. I am doing this on top of a piece of paper so I can easily pour all of the powder back into the jar. I will brush off the excess around the lid with a makeup brush and heat this powder up. When you do this, be very careful because the heating gun can get really hot, and we do not want to melt the plastic lid. To avoid that, I will turn on my heating gun for a couple of seconds until it is very hot. Then I will quickly go over the lid with the heating gun just long enough to set this embossing powder. I recommend waiting for the lid to cool down before putting it back on the jar. From now on, instead of pouring the powder on top of the lid, I decided to dab the lid right onto the powder so I do not have to keep on cleaning around it with my makeup brush. I will also use a pair of tweezers to hold the lids so I do not burn my fingers. You can see the colors changing as we heat it up, so these swatches will give me a better idea of what the color is going to be on my projects. To speed up this process, I will start by dabbing a couple of lids into the Versamark pad and powder first, and then heat emboss all of them at once. This way I won't have to be turning on and off my heating gun all of the time. I know that this may seem like a lot of work, but the reason why I like creating swatches is because it will save me a lot of time in the future by eliminating all of the guesswork, especially with some embossing powders that have unique and mixed colors, like this purple and white embossing powder that I just heat set. I would not have been able to know that it was going to look like this just by looking at the powder in the jar. Another idea would be to create a swatch book instead of doing it directly to the lid, but I found this to be more practical. If you haven't tried embossing powders, I highly recommend it. They are available in many different fun colors and also in different particle sizes, so you have, for example, fine or super fine powders. Woe and Ranger are my favorite brands, as you can see. I love the Ranger Tinsel collection because it has glitter on them. However, my most used embossing powders are by far the Woe Super Fine Clear Embossing Powder and the Ranger Holographic Embossing Powder. I keep these two in a large container because it makes it easier to work with. I use either clear or holographic embossing powders on most of my projects. I like to emboss stamped images or sentiments as well as heat emboss sentiment die cuts. And now that I am done swatching these embossing powders, I will place them all in the spice rack. As you can see here, I have plenty of room to grow. These tiers are wide enough to make 2 rows of the smaller jars. I could also keep 2 rows in one tier by mixing smaller and bigger jars. So this is how I keep my embossing powders organized. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so you do not miss my next video. If you're interested, know that this month on every Wednesday I will be posting a video related to craft supply organization. Have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you again soon.